Cool. Yeah. Hi everyone. So we'll start with the Unreal kit that I basically prepared. Uh, this isn't going to save you 20 hours because it doesn't take 20 hours to do this in Unreal. A little bit before we get started, I mean, yeah, Unreal is known for sort of like realistic graphics, like high fidelity, high production value. The engine is really aimed at sort of like larger development teams as well. And so it's been associated with this sort of like high rendering fidelity, which makes Gaussian splats really a very nice match for this engine, just because they are like very photorealistic if you look at them. So the integration of splats into Unreal is pretty seamless. Usually, like also what Unity does is it uses particle systems to render all the splats. So in Unreal, we can use Niagara, which is also highly performant, really well sort of like documented and researched. And it's already sort of the standard in production in industries like virtual production, where we see sort of like these virtual sets being built now also with AI generated splats. So yeah, it's really a match made in heaven for things like virtual productions, like virtual film sets, that kind of thing. And you can definitely sort of expect to see a lot more of that in the future. There are a couple of downsides to using Unreal versus Unity, of course. If you've been around in the Unreal ecosystem for a while, doing VR, AR, sort of like MR dev, then you know that the VR ecosystem in Unreal is a lot smaller than it would be in Unity. That means you have a lot less tooling available for you. For example, the Meta XR SDK that you have in Unity, which is really nice with like hand tracking and everything sort of like being integrated with a proper interaction system and all that kind of stuff. It's not available to the extent in Unreal, and you need to rely on sort of like third-party plugins for that kind of stuff. But I'll get a little bit into that. So this is really more suited for virtual production or video rendering. But if you're sort of like a VR dev in Unreal, first of all, I salute you. But then you sort of like already know all this. If you have like specific questions to what plugins you could use, feel free to ask about that as well. Um, so the plugin that I recommend to use is the XV3DGS. So this is from Xverse and the 3D Gaussian Splat Renderer. This is a free and open source plugin. You can find it on the marketplace. Open source in quotes because it isn't. They provide precompiled binaries, which means not the source code. That means you cannot compile it yourself. And the latest version that they provide is for Unreal 5.5. It is still fairly a recent version. The latest version, for those of you who don't know, is 5.7, and we're starting to get into like 5.8 now. But still, for most of the plugins are definitely compatible with 5.5 at this point. Yeah, and we're using Niagara with this plugin as well. It basically imports a PLY file and then converts it into a Niagara particle system, and I'll show how that exactly works. You can also, well, I mean, you cannot import SPZ files, which is like, if you remember from earlier, these are sort of like the compressed versions of the splats. They're usually like 4 times smaller than .ply. So you can only import PLY, but you can convert both with like third-party plugins or with like third-party tools online. It's like very simple. So if you have an SPZ, convert it to a PLY, and then it will work just fine. Yeah, and it has some really cool features, this plugin, for also modifying the assets directly in the editor, like a bounding box, breaking down the size of the splat a little bit. There are other plugins as well, notably one that is about 100 euros. It basically offers the same thing as this one here, but it works with higher engine versions, just for sort of like the completion sake. So I have a couple of rendering tips. It's really very simple to set this up. You basically just add the plugin to your project. And well, since it is 5.5.1, You can use the Meta XR SDK, but not the latest version. That is for 5.6. So you have to use one that's a couple of months old. It's like 5.5. That's also what I recommend you do if you really want to do XR in Unreal. And then for XR interactions, like things like locomotion, grab, that kind of stuff, there are also multiple options available. But yeah, as said before, unfortunately, no Unity Meta XR equivalent kind of thing. For rendering, it's also pretty simple. You need to disable instance stereo if you want to use it in VR. Otherwise, you can leave it on. But I mean, yeah, then, instance stereo is just basically clones one view for one eye, and you get weird rendering artifacts. This is going to have a little bit of a performance impact on you. And you should limit it to about 2 million splats. It really depends on your computer. So if you have like a 5090, sure, you can totally do more. But I would recommend like 2 million, which is basically if you download a average splat from World Labs in the high version, then you can totally render that. And I'll also show that. Then this is sort of like our Unreal kit. It's basically just a project, 5.5. It already has all the rendering set up. It has a little example scene with our Sense AI sort of like branded splat. It's not a very big file, but it's nice for you to see. Yeah. And we also applied the render settings that you need. For example, hardware ray tracing needs to be disabled. Otherwise, you get compile errors. So basically, this is a ready-to-go project. Just take your splat, drag and drop it in. Yeah, and that's essentially how that one works. Which is also what I'm going to show you here. So let's go to Unreal. This is the project. I just opened it up. I didn't do anything to it. This is the starting level. This is the scene. You can see this is basically the splat that we have like from afar. And you can see the blobs here. You can see my FPS is like 40-ish. It would be 60 if I wasn't streaming. And I also have like the WebXR stuff in the background. So yeah, and my PC isn't the latest. Usually I work on Mac. But yeah, here you can see this is basically the splat and how it works. So let's hide that for now because I want to show you how easy it is to import something. I have a couple of splats prepared. This one here is the one that you're looking at, and then the rustic cafe interior, which is a really cool cafe scene. You really just drag and drop this in. It doesn't take a very long time to sort of do this. It also generates LODs for you. And the splat is now imported into Unreal. You get two files out of this. You get a script, which is basically the runtime buffer. You don't really need to worry about that. Just don't delete it. And then you get a blueprint. This is something you can just drag and drop into your scene. Let me put it at the origin. And whoa. And this is your splat now. I chose this one because it is flipped by 180 degree. But that's no problem because it's really just a blueprint, and you can rotate that by 180 degree. You can scale it if you want to. And here you go. This is your splat. It looks really good. This is the high version of the splat. Yeah. So you can easily import these things. It's also not a very large file. If we select the blueprint actor here for a second, you can see that there are a couple of settings. The sort of default settings are very good. Like usually you don't really need to touch them. But for the sake of sort of like being complete here, you can. I really encourage you to play around with this yourself. But you, for example, have a crop box. So if I zoom out here, then you can see that you can basically crop the splat and remove the outliers here. Be careful with that though, because for example, in this example, you see that outside of the window there are a lot of splats here. And it looks like they would need to be cropped out and removed. But actually, these are the houses outside. And depending on your view angle, you might want to retain these splats here. So the output from World Labs already is very good. And yeah, this is also what makes the Unreal workflow so so easy and nice. It's like add the plugin, change like 2 render settings, and then drag and drop in your splat, and like that's it. Yeah. So this is sort of the way that it works with Unreal, and we provide this project on GitHub. And yeah, I really encourage you to try it out. It's super cool.